Okay, folks, so you've experienced a spiritual awakening. Now what? Maybe you've just experienced a serendipitous event and you've been awakened to the joy and magic and gifts that Spirit has to offer. Or maybe you've just hit rock bottom and you've lost everything. Or you're experiencing overwhelming physical pain and you're desperate for it to stop. And you're looking around yourself and saying, now what? Where do I go from here? What can I do? What is there for me? Either way, at a certain point in all of our lives, each of us is being called to come into alignment with our highest self and create the life that you are meant to live. When we receive this call, we can choose to ignore it and continue on in our physical lives and do what we can to hustle and grind, or we can choose to embrace it. And if you choose to embrace it, there's no going back to reality as it used to be. Because once you learn that you can go with the flow, experience manifestation through the law of attraction, and have everything in alignment with your highest vibration, nothing will feel the same. And this is what a lot of people experience after going through their first spiritual awakening. If you've just experienced a blissful spiritual awakening and you're spending a lot of time in your higher energies, this is what we might think of as a sort of bohemian, hippy-dippy lifestyle. Joy and love and harmony and exploring your psychic gifts and going with the flow and bouncing around and seeing where life takes you. And this is a great place to be. This is a wonderful first step on the journey. But I would caution against getting stuck here. Because if you don't actually progress along the path, then you're going to experience the law of attraction at the current vibration of your physical self. And the universe can only deliver to you what you're in alignment with. So a lot of people may spend a lot of time in these higher energies in the beginning of their spiritual journey and never really delve into the actual foundational energies that are shoring up all of these other facets of your life. And for others, it's very possible, and what naturally happens after you've begun to align with your higher energies and you've experienced your higher self and a vision for your life and what it could be, then things naturally start to fall away. Things from your past no longer hold the joy they once did or the allure they once did. People from your past are holding a lower vibration, and you realize that they're blocking you or affecting you, or you're taking on their energies and it's keeping you out of the flow. A lot of times, after awakening, we go through a purging phase, what I like to call hibernation. A hibernating phase where you withdraw from the world and you purge from your life everything that's no longer serving you. And this is often referred to as the dark night of the soul, or the void phase. And during this phase, you may feel lonely, confused, concerned, worried, generally out of sorts, a little bit lost, not knowing exactly who you are or what's meant next for you. And it's either during or after this phase that we fully explore source and grounding and root chakra work and shadow work and the beginning of healing and true foundation for unblocking and channeling all of the energy in all of your chakras. This here in the center is representing the material plane, the physical plane, our body and our world and life as we know it. And our body is a conduit for energy that passes through and is carried and is held by us. And the amount of energy that your body is able to process is your current physical vibration, in conjunction with your mental state, your past programming, your past traumas and hurts. All of this is contributing to your energetic body. And this is the vibration you're putting out into the world. When you're ready to begin raising your vibration and allowing a Kundalini energy flow, which is just a term that means the literal physical transmission of energy rising higher through your body, then is the time to truly begin the work of the journey. You can't run before you can walk, and you can't walk before you can crawl. And quite frankly, you can't even crawl before you can learn to lie down and sit up and rest and feed yourself. So basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of very basic but integral work that needs to go on in the early phases of a spiritual awakening journey. And one of the entire points of this whole thing is to connect source through the body with spirit to become a full channel for energy in the physical plane. And when you can hold your highest level of vibration and be in full alignment with your highest self and direct and facilitate the flow of energy, that is mastery. And most people never get there. I'm about to clear all this away so that we can talk about the most important first steps. The root chakra and the crown chakra. They say, first you awaken to the light, then you awaken to the dark, then you awaken to yourself. I do want to say that the dark and shadow work is not evil or bad or dangerous or inherently scary, although you may be scared of it. It's merely what is hidden and repressed inside of us. And a lot of psychology, in fact, is based around this integration concept, dealing with past traumas and healing from them and integrating them and learning how to have new behaviors around them. And that's basically the fundamentals of shadow work. A lot of the things that are repressed within us aren't necessarily bad things. How many little girls were told you're bossy, so now you're less confident? That bossiness is a shadow. How many little boys were told you're too emotional, you can't be emotional, be strong? Well, now your emotions are repressed, and those emotions are a shadow. Those things aren't bad things. They're just things that are in the darkness, things that are hidden, things that don't have light shone upon them. And they're not integrated into your conscious self. In order to become a whole self, you need to discover, heal, unlearn, reprogram, re-nurture, reparent, relearn, integrate, and move forward from all of these hidden aspects of self. So what I'm going to do now is change our diagram here a little bit. And I'm going to take down spirit energy rather. And I'm not doing that because spirit's not important. I'm doing that because in fact, I'll leave it over here. Spirit is the aspect of consciousness. If you're not comfortable with the term spirit, these are also yin and yang energy. And going back to what I was just saying, the darkness, the hidden, the yin energy is the receptive, accepting, merciful, all-understanding, all-encompassing energy of substance and existence that is all things. And yang energy is the energy of drive, determination, clarity of vision. It's an active energy. And the reason I'm taking this energy down off of our board is because what we're going to do first is not run, but lie down. So I'm taking the active energy off of our board at the moment so that we can delve a little further into root chakra energy. Now, unblocking the energetic pathways is often seen as a single-step process. You do the work, you unblock it, and then you're good to go, and you move on. But that's a very limited view. Because what it actually is a repetitive process of going over and over all of the things in all of the energy centers until they're fully cleared and unblocked. And often retreading ground you've trod before, but looking at it from a higher perspective in your new vibration. Here's a metaphor. You can think of unblocking the chakra system and rising your Kundalini energy as building a road through a mountain. If you want to build a road through a mountain, first you have to know the mountain. You have to understand what it's made of. You have to know where you're starting and where you're going. And then you have to get all your equipment up there and you have to dynamite that mountain with this huge explosion of force. And then what you're left with is a whole load of rubble. So you can't just begin to drive on that rubble. Now you have to clear away the rubble, and you have to cleanse, and you have to sweep, and you have to wash it, and I don't know how to build a road. And then you can pave it, and only then can you begin to drive on it. And now that you've done all that groundwork and you've got your equipment further up the road, well, there's more mountain ahead of you. So you got to dynamite that mountain and then clear away the rubble and then pave the road and then drive all your equipment further down the road and then do it again and again and again until you get all the way through. And it's very possible that while your equipment is driving up and down all of these roads you've just built, that you're going to start to pull up some of that gravel that you've previously laid, and you're going to see where the foundations of that gravel weren't actually strong enough in the first place to maintain the traffic that's going along this road. Or maybe you have to widen that road, and you made your road too narrow for the big equipment you're going to need for the biggest stuff that's coming down the way. So now you need to widen that road again and clear out some more rubble. And maybe you need to dig out a hole, the pothole that you've created, and fill that in with something a little sturdier. And you're going to do this over and over again and again until you finally connect point A to point B. That's basically the process of clearing and unblocking the energy centers to allow for a free flow of energy entirely through the body from source to spirit, from Shakti to Shiva, from yin to yang, from ground to crown. So, keeping that in mind, you can see how this is something of a long process. And unfortunately, we work on human time. And so things are going to take time. And as you go through each stage of the journey, if you're going through Kundalini rising, you're going to be feeling physical changes within the body as well. A lot of people call these ascension symptoms. And that's your body keeping up with the energy it's processing, with your new vibrations. Okay. Source. So what we actually need to do is get our consciousness out of the way, believe it or not. What we actually need to do before we do anything else is learn how to exist in our body and in our current vibration. Just like the universe can only deliver to you what you're vibrationally in alignment with, you can only be as vibrationally aligned as you've met yourself to be. You have a vision of your higher self, and you have a vision of your calling, and you have a vision of who you're meant to be or what you're meant to do. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even have a vision. You just know that you have a higher self. You just know there's something more meant for you. And while you're going through this journey, that's when you're going to discover what that purpose is, what that calling is, what you're meant to do as your most authentic and high vibrational self. Because once you're in the flow, you can't help but be everything that you are. And if you're trying to manifest something big that's vibrationally beyond where you are, that's not a vibrational match to you at this moment in time, then it can't be delivered to you at this moment in time. You've sent out a call to the universe for it, but you have to put yourself in a place to be able to receive it. Just like we have to be a physical match to channel the energy, we also have to be a material and physical match to receive the manifestations that we want. And one might say to produce the glorious manifestations that we're capable of creating. So the root chakra. So the root chakra traditionally is located at the base of the spine. In this lovely diagram, if you can see it, it's the lowest chakra. It's the chakra associated with grounding and with connecting with physicality and Mother Earth. Source, the natural order, the way, the living water, Shakti energy, Yin energy, is not Mother Earth. It's way deeper beyond that. And it created, it was used to create all of existence, all of the cosmos. It flows in and through and around everything. It is the fundamental forces of existence. It's what holds everything together. It's the reason that physics works the way it does. It's the reason that biology works the way it does. Source energy, the way I'm terming source, not as in the divine spirit of God, consciousness, but yin energy is substance beyond substance. It's the very nature of existence with which conscious God, spirit, created the universe. And connecting with source energy through the root chakra is how you get there. Down, not up. Spirit comes from the crown into the body. And that's why we pray upwards. But source, how do I say that so it's not confusing? I think by now you know what I mean when I say source. When most people in the spirituality community say source energy, they mean divine God energy. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the Tao. Maybe that's how I'll say it for the moment so that I'm clear. The Tao, the way, the natural order of existence. And I want to make that clear because that's what's going to make this make sense. So, the way is the flow of life. When they say go with the flow, that's what you're flowing with. It's the living water of creation. It is the river that takes you where you want to go. And when you go with the flow and you're floating on the river, A, everything is great, but B, you're just going wherever the river takes you. And everything flows. Everything in creation knows how to flow, except human beings. And like I said, it's the fundamental order of creation. So atoms and molecules flow, gravity flows, electromagnetism flows, the trees and the plants and the animals flow. Everything flows with their own natural rhythm, except for humans. And the reason we have such trouble flowing is because we have consciousness. We have a higher level of mental energy in this physical form that is meant to to enhance this flow. That's what it's meant by when they say we're made in the image of God. Excuse me. We have the conscious ability to create using source energy. And that's what we're designed to do. That's what our soul wants to do. Our soul, our own higher vibrational energetic self, already exists in a place where it knows source is there and it knows spirit is there, and it doesn't understand why we're not working with it. That's why you have all this mental conflict with yourself. That's why you have, a conscience. That's why you have misalignment with your own self and your own soul and your own higher calling, because your soul knows what you're supposed to be doing and you're not hearing it and you're not doing it. So we want to go with the flow. But what we want to do eventually down the road is be able to use our consciousness in order to manipulate or facilitate or direct the flow so that our manifestations and our visions can come to fruition and bear fruit. And in the early stages, it is our consciousness that is blocking our flow, which is why for the moment what we want to do is get consciousness out of the way. If you're trying too hard, you cannot manifest. If you're trying too hard, you're going to be blocked and frustrated and tensed up. The more you try, the more you're resisting flow. And consciousness is why we have free will. Because we are meant to recognize and utilize in full awareness this flow of source. But you always have the option not to do that. And free will screw you every time. If you choose to go against the flow, if you choose not to access your higher self, if you choose to remain mired in the constructs of power and accumulation, then that's your free will choice. That's what you want to do with your consciousness. That's what you want to do with your lifetime on this earth. And you can do that. But it will never bring you into alignment with what will truly bring you fulfillment. So you can make all the lists you want, and you can make all of the goals that you want, but unless those goals are in alignment with your higher self's goals, let's put it this way. When you're in alignment with your higher self, you won't have to make any more lists. You'll just naturally be flowing toward the things that are meant for you. And the things that are meant for you will be flowing towards you. And it's going to be a beautiful whirlpool of creation. And you won't have to fight for it. And you won't have to grind it out. You'll just naturally be doing what you were always meant to do. Alright, so that's enough lecturing. What we're going to do now is learn the root chakra. The root chakra, pardon me, is called Muladhara in Sanskrit, I believe. And the root chakra deals with grounding and safety and security and surety and knowingness. And the root chakra is blocked by fear. And this is why the Bible says so often, do not fear, do not be afraid. Because when you fear, you're resisting. I'm going through my cards here because I just want to pull out a couple more things to stick up on our board. When you fear, you're resisting. When you're afraid of something, you can't embrace it. When you're afraid of source energy, you can't accept it. When you're afraid of the changes that are going on in your body, you can't allow them. The root chakra deals with safety. And the root chakra is blocked by fear. When we begin our spiritual journey, it's important to spend a lot of time with yourself, getting to know who you are on a root level, and getting to know and trust and believe that you are a sovereign creature and you have a right to be here. You have a right to exist as much as any other human being, plant, animal, or mineral in this universe. No other being has power over you. You are sovereign king or queen of your own life and your own destiny. Accepting yourself right where you are in this moment can be a very tricky thing to do, but it's what Source energy does. It's what the Divine Mother does. She accepts you right now in this moment with all your flaws and all your addictions and all your insecurities and all of your out of vibrational programming. Right now in this moment, you are accepted and loved. You are a beautiful human being. And a beautiful soul. And this is why people think that evil resides in the darkness, or that the darkness is something to be afraid of. Because the darkness accepts and loves everyone and everything exactly as it is. Because exactly as it is all it's able to be right now. It's just being its very nature. And the nature of existence isn't inherently good or evil. It just is. It is what it is. So, yes, anger resides in the darkness, and fear resides in the darkness, and evil and power and control and greed all reside in the darkness. But so does mercy and forgiveness and compassion and acceptance and understanding and love. It all comes from the darkness. And a lot of those things can be hidden or repressed within us. So, getting to know Source is one of the first things that you're going to want to do on a true spiritual journey. surprising how hard it is to find cards that visually represent spirit and source energy. You would think that because it's so intrinsic to the whole thing, more cards would have it, but I don't even have a single card that has yin and yang on it. I might have to make some for myself. So, finding the stillness. God is in the stillness and the silence and the peace and the purity and the harmony above and beyond creation. Source, the Tao, is in the stillness and the silence and the peace and the bliss below and throughout creation. Finding that stillness within you and reaching out and experiencing what is there. That is fundamental to the entire journey. I'm going to do an entire other video on the stillness because it is so critical a component. But for the moment, I just want to mention stillness and silence and meditation. And a lot of people think that meditation means fighting down all of your thoughts and keeping them out and, making yourself be in a quiet state. This is the higher state of meditating, when you're in just a blissful quiet and you can feel the source. But in order to get there, and I think I'm going to make a whole nother video on how to meditate, in order to get to the silence, it's okay to follow your train of thought there. I'm a big proponent, I say this all the time to my friends when we're talking about meditation. I often will say, think all the thoughts. And when you have no more thoughts to think, then you're at the stillness. And it's not that you're dwelling on the thoughts. You have to flow through them. You have to let them come and let them go. A lot of people find it easier to meditate with white noise, or like a TV turned down really, really low so you can't really hear them, like it's in the next room talking kind of a thing, or a white noise machine or a fan. These things can help distract the conscious mind and the consciousness that puts limits on our thinking. It's kind of like stream of consciousness writing. So you can start by journaling too if writing works for you. You're basically just trying to follow the stream of your thinking until you get to the end of all the thoughts you have to think. And then it's easier to open yourself up to see what else is out there. Because these things are actually somewhat external to you. They're both within you at the same time, but they're also not you. They're you and they're not you, but they're not you. Source is its own thing. Spirit is its own thing. And they're talking to you in your mind. So once you get your mind out of the way, you can hear them. You have to be able to hear beyond what's going on here and hear what's coming from there. I read a quote once that said, "Thoughts come and thoughts go. Where do you think they come from?" And this led me to realize the difference between my own thoughts and the thoughts that came from God. What's known as clairsentience or claircognizance. I get those confused. Claircognizance is clear knowing. Or clairaudience. It could be one or the other. Clairaudience is clear hearing. And when those things are occurring to you, you feel them and you hear them in your head. Those are gifts from God. And then there's also your own higher self that talks to you sometimes. And this is why people on a spirit journey can often sound a little wacky and out there, because it sounds like all these people are talking to them in their head and they're mental, but they're not, okay? It's real. And learning to feel the difference is really what you're doing in this step. And I'm not going over clearing and unblocking the root chakra today. I'm going to make that a separate video, because this video is about grounding and rooting and getting in touch with source energy. Okay, so communing with source energy is going to be one of the most important things you can do, because, as I've said, it makes up everything, and everything has a natural order. And you don't need to be afraid of anything that's coming towards you. Are you afraid of spiders? Are you afraid of the dark? Are you afraid of heights? Are you afraid of vulnerability? Are you afraid of being controlled? Whatever you're afraid of, you don't have to fear it. Are you afraid of what's happening in your body? Are you afraid of the work it's going to take you to get somewhere? You don't have to fear it, because the way knows the way. The flow of energy, source energy, the Tao, which is literally the way of existence, knows how to get you there, knows how your body works, knows why you shouldn't fear those things, because they're not a threat to you. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, as the saying goes. The only thing that's keeping you from allowing the flow of source energy is your own fear and resistance to it. So, sitting in silence, a lot of people find that quite difficult, but sitting in silence, reaching out to existence, which literally just means doing nothing. Okay, the Tao says, wei wu wei, doing, not doing. It is an active process of doing no things. Okay? Just sit. Or in my opinion, lie down, especially when you're at the early stages of this process. It will allow your body the freedom to align itself as you do the process. Lie down. I'm going to say it again because people often ignore me when I say this. Lie down. Or to sit down outside. Being outside is a great place to commune with Source. But you need to believe and trust and have faith that the way knows the way. Do no things until you know what thing you're supposed to do. When you have too many things on your plate and you can't decide what to do, that's exactly the time when you should do none of the things. The Tao says, can you wait until the mud settles and the water becomes clear? Can you stand at the center of the circle until the right action arises by itself? When you're in communion with your higher self and with Source, you don't need to decide where to go or what to do. It will become clear eventually if you sit there long enough, or you lie there long enough, and you think nothing, and you see what comes to you. You will know what you should do next, and that is inspired action. And when you're taking inspired actions, those actions, you can be confident that they're the right thing to do. And you will be confident that they're the right thing to do. Because you're doing what's in harmony and alignment with yourself and with the Source of all creation. Now, going on a spiritual healing journey in order to dynamite all your chakras and repave them involves a great deal of actual healing and shadow work and internal work on your inner self. As I mentioned earlier, you have to unlearn all of the mental habits that you've learned and all of the programming that's been impressed upon you by society. And you have to deal with your repressed traumas. And that's not a fun part of the process, but it's an extremely necessary part of the process. It's like if you have a splinter, and that splinter never came out, and so it's way down underneath a whole bunch of layers of skin. And it's just under there, and it made a lovely little bump around itself, and it's all protected, and that splinter's just sitting in there. And it may not affect your day-to-day life, but it's in there, right? And it's definitely affecting something. It's affecting your tissue conduction, or it's affecting your immune system, or it's affecting something just because it's in there. The very fact of its existence is affecting something whether you know it or not. And this is what your past trauma wounds are doing to your energetic field. You may be ignoring them and getting by without dealing with them and doing just fine. But simply not looking at your trauma will only get you so far. It won't actually allow for the healing of that trauma. It's just going to sit there in its little bubble, affecting your energy and preventing you from being fully cleared. So when you're ready and you're grounded and you're connected and you believe that the way knows the way and that Spirit and Source aren't going to let you fall, and that you are safe and you are accepted in this moment, then you can begin to really do your shadow work. And doing that shadow work is going to be a major topic of this channel. But I am not getting there yet, because as you can see, there's a lot to do before you're truly ready to dig up the most painful parts of you, dig them up and get them out, and examine them and see why they're there, and see how they make you feel, and see how they affect you, and see what's wrong with them, and see them clearly and let them go. And I will teach you how to do that as well. But that's a very difficult process, obviously. And before you can do that, it's really important that you have trust and faith. Trust and faith are the foundations upon which everything else will be built. Trust. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to go over one other thing involving trust. So there's a psychological tool called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may have heard of it. It's fairly old by now. It's from like the 50s or something. Psychological structuring. And basically it says that in order to meet our needs, certain other needs, fundamental needs, need to be met first along the way. And the first needs that need to be met are your physiological needs. I don't know if you can see that. Your physiological needs. These are your material, biological, physical body needs. Air, food, water, excretion, shelter, heat, clothes, sleep, rest, and sex, because it's a biological drive. And the second level of the hierarchy of needs is safety. Security, stability, protection, trust, comfort, peace, and freedom. Safety. I'll just briefly tell you what the others are, because they're higher level and we're not going to get there today. But esteem, self-esteem, respect, acknowledgement, encouragement, confidence, and social needs. So acceptance, connection, belonging, intimacy, community, and love. And then growth and self-actualization needs. So play, learning, purpose, achievement, self-discovery. So these are higher level needs that you can't even begin to meet until your safety and physiological security are met. Before we can do our shadow work, before we can do our healing, before we can make real progress on unlearning past behaviors and relearning new behaviors, reparenting ourselves, and discarding old traumas, and clearing our energy in order to allow for a flow of peace and happiness without anything in the way to bring you down. You have to feel safe and secure. If you're in a place right now where you're actually not safe, the only thing you need to do right now is get yourself out of that situation and into a place of safety. If you're in a place where your traumas are still occurring to you, you have to remove yourself from your traumatic situations. You can't heal from trauma while you're experiencing trauma. All you can do is survive. You can't heal from the past until it becomes the past. And I'm going to make another video on safety and security and the basic needs. But safety and security, if you're not in a place where your traumas are currently occurring with you, and you are in a place where you are technically safe at this moment, then what you need to work on before anything else is this. I am safe. I am secure. There are no threats to me at this time. In this moment, I am safe. God supports me with the same energy that supports the planets in the sky. And Source supports me with the same energy that supports the trees in their roots. I am a sovereign human being with every right to be here. No other creature has power over me. You need to say that, and you need to believe it. Work on that grounding. When I say grounding, that's what I mean. True knowing of your right of existence and your place in the universe and your part in spirit and source energy. That's what I mean by grounding. I don't mean go outside and put your feet in the dirt. That's lovely. It really is. But that's connecting to the life of the earth. And it's great. It really does help some people to remember that you're part of the earth. You came from this world. And if doing that, walking in the grass, feeling the sunshine, if that helps you to actually ground yourself in existence, then do it. But you don't need to leave your house to know that you are one with all creation and a sovereign soul with a birthright of existence and magnificence. Alright, this video is quite long, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not sure specifically yet, because I'm letting this be a little bit more free form, which topic my very next video will be on. But here are some of the topics that I'm going to be covering soon. I'm trying to do this in a logical order so that the progression of the journey makes sense. I'm going to cover more on Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs. I'm going to cover more about unblocking the root chakra And then I'm going to go through that for the other chakras as well. But the root chakra is what everything stems from. And this fear, we're going to talk about fear. I'm going to talk more about feeling your existence and how that corresponds to your emotions and your mentality. And I'm going to talk about the stillness and the silence beyond creation and how one can meditate in order to reach it and feel it and live in it. And this is going with the flow. Remember, we want to go with the flow, but eventually we want to learn to direct the flow. So those are some of the things we can look forward to going forward on this channel. Oh, and shadow work. I can't believe I forgot shadow work. We're going to talk about shadow work. But I think, since it was just now the last thing on my list, that we're probably going to talk about a few of these other topics before I get into the heavy-duty actual work of dealing with your traumas. Because it is work. And I think that before we get there and we really start digging through some of that together, that it's important that since you're at the beginning of your spiritual awakening process or your Kundalini awakening process, that you really take time, and I've said this at the end of every one of my videos, to lie down with yourself in quiet and just be. Say, as I said earlier, to ground yourself in reality, in existence, in source energy. I think I'm also going to link for you down below in the description box one of my favorite meditations for grounding and safety and security. There are many out there, but this one is brief. It's like 20 minutes long, and I find it helpful to get into a meditative state if you play a small meditation like this, and then just let it trail off and sit in silence, because you'll already be in a state of receiving that message. So I'm going to link that down below. After this video, you should go lie down and maybe listen to that meditation. I'm not affiliated with any other channel. This is just one that I happen to like that worked for me really well. And if it doesn't work for you, maybe you can explore from there and find some other grounding meditations that do work for you. But get in touch with yourself. Get in touch with source energy. Sit in silence. Ground. Accept your place in existence. And teach your brain that you are safe. You can't begin any other work until you believe that you are safe. Spirit has your back, and the way knows the way. Peace and blessings, my friends. I'll see you soon.